Hello. Welcome back to the Sandbox. It's great to see so many faces here. So we're going to start. And just to give a structure to this night, we just went into our breakout rooms. I hope we had a chance to just meet each other, get to know each other, discuss stuff. And as we all know, today we're going to start exploring a theme called Exploring Mattering. And we discussed the question, what is sacred to you? And what do you hold dearly in your life? And I hope that's gotten us into a space where we've started to reassess all the things that, we come across in our lives and how we hold on to them, or how we process them, or how we engage with them. So let's start off this night by just having a moment of quiet, a moment of presence, since a theme that came out of our discussion was a common theme that was presence in itself is quite sacred. Presence of animate things, inanimate things. So we're gonna have 2 minutes of just being quiet, taking in all the sounds around us, and also knowing that we're all being quiet at the same time, knowing that we're all sitting here together about to engage in something that is quite meaningful and will uncover more things in our own lives. So starting now, and I will bring you back into the space. And you can close your eyes, you can keep your eyes open, you can focus on one thing in front of you, but just allow yourselves those 2 moments, those 2 minutes to stop and take everything in. Welcome back, and thanks for doing this together. So I'm going to start off with a quick intro, and after that, we will have our speaker, Felix, do his magic, followed by some time for questions, dialogue, epiphanies, mind burps, whatever comes your way. And after that, we will round it up and hopefully start getting excited for the next one while basking in the one today. So yeah, welcome. And it's always nice to have this community feel. I feel like I don't do this as much as I should because, well, Zoom fatigue is a thing, and there's only so many hours you can spend, staring at a screen with a smile plastered on your face, and then you only realize that until the call ends, and you realize, your cheeks have been hurting and you don't know why. But this is all a long-winded way to say thanks for coming by, for lending your presence for however long or short. It definitely leaves a mark. I'm a strong believer in presence. I'm a strong believer that it transcends pixels and sound bites and screens. And I guess that is probably what led me to in person in the first place, and then made me stick around. I remember last time in the Sandbox, I caught glimpses of people, stirring their coffee or their tea, or someone was, like having a moment to herself, just smiling at something people were discussing, just to herself. Like she didn't, there was nothing specific to smile about, but she just found herself smiling. And someone was just like getting all comfy and bundled up and lying down. And I swear to God, that felt so intimate, so personal, despite, us being in our own homes in front of a screen. And I really treasured that. I felt like we were all in the same space, and so I hope that in saying this, some of you might have felt it or recognized it in the previous one, or at least I hope you might look out for it today if you haven't felt that or found that already. Yeah. As mentioned, the theme for today is exploring mattering. And frankly, I've never heard the term mattering being used enough, and especially not in itself. So it's very intriguing and captivating in any case. But on top of that, the speaker also happens to be someone I'm quite intrigued by. I only know of him through what James has told me, but for better or worse, I'm quite quick at creating impressions. And so far, I've understood that he is a homegrown person from the in-person community, from the Sandbox community. And I have heard it through the grapevine that he's a joy to be around. I would like to lend the floor to him. And I've also heard that he is a kind and listening presence. And if there's anything that I've come to know, people who are good listeners tend to have wonderful insights to share and therefore can be the most captivating speakers. So it is a joy to have you, Felix, and the proverbial floor is yours.
Yeah, I feel very flattered. That was really lovely to hear. So this term mattering is not new to anyone. I think everyone has some idea of what that might mean for them, what mattering is. I think it's the way that it gets used in talking is that it's kind of what is of value to you and what is important. So I came across it, and the reason I sort of wanted to talk about it was because it was very intriguing. But it also was conceptualized as an idea by a psychologist quite recently, as this way of thinking about the value that you receive and the value that you add to 4 different compartments. Although, as is the case with a lot of theoretical things, it doesn't translate on straight lines. It's all quite bendy, actually. But just for clarity, the way that it's laid out is that it's mattering is a state, in this definition at least, that you get closer to by having a balance between the value that you add and the value that you receive with yourself, with others. So that's others that you that you know, but they're part of a community, or they're just people you see in the street. You don't have a personal relationship with them. That's another one, is your relationship. So that's your friends, your family, anything really that you have a relationship with. It could be a plant, for instance. And then the 4th sort of category that is in this concept of mattering is your work as well. And so Prilleltensky, who's the name of the person, sort of says is that you will find this state of fulfillment or satisfaction where your life feels like it does matter through achieving a balance with these things. And so so that's like what it is. I was thinking with the session, maybe I would start by saying what something that it made me think of about my own life, like learning of it, just to sort of bring it out of theory into the real world, because it's just a lot of words. So I think is the first time that I've considered the idea that you would bring value to yourself, which is maybe a strange thing to say, because you have lots of different ways of behaving, and you kind of know, oh, like that's good, this is not so good, I would like to do more of this, I would like to do less of these things. But I'd never really bundled it all together and thought, like, what brings value to me? And of course it is related to all those other things. And then as well as what value do I add to myself, also what do I receive, and that idea of self-appreciation. And really, it's kind of funny because you are yourself, but then you're feeling a sense of value from that person or that concept. But I suppose it can be like that. Yeah, it can. So that for me was something in particular that I found from it, with just learning about this thing. And I'm not like a massive advocate for like putting all areas of human experience into boxes, but I felt like it was an arrangement of things that was intriguing. And also, if you carry that into your life, it would look quite radically different if it was done in a sort of on a a larger scale as well, because it's like suddenly your the time that you spend gets more evenly shared, and it's not just like, what can I do for you, like my employer. It's is that employment with with the work branch, is that something that I also feel value from. And just on the point of the work aspect, it's not just for like money, it's also anything that you might be working on. It could be a project, it could be just a knowledge base that you're trying to interact with. So yes, that's what I have to say on the matter of mattering. Yeah.
I find that quite interesting. I guess my first question, or like the first thing I found myself wanting to probe you on is it a two-way thing? Like, is it a two-player or multiplayer context that we're talking about, or can it be within myself, encompassed in myself?
In terms of mattering as a whole, or like one of the 4 areas with
Mattering as a whole. So the action, or I don't know, the term mattering.
I think it's so is your question, is it something that exists like for an individual on their own, or is it something that exists for an individual with others around them?
Yeah, I guess the idea of it existing with the individual, well, for the individual, with things around them, is something easier to grapple with, as opposed to, can something within myself matter to me? Can different aspects of myself matter to me, as opposed to this table, or my employer, my manager? Like, can the thing of, the act of mattering exist within myself?
I think, yeah, I think it could, because it's, you could carry that the balance of value that you feel towards and from into any place, really. Yeah, because it can go into like all sorts of different interactions. It can be with yourself when it's just you, or like if it was a person that you were with, there's that exchange of there is an exchange that exists between people, but an attempt of balance in that is more fulfilling, in the sense of you're receiving something from them, but also it feels good to have the reverse, where they're getting something from you as well.
Right. That's interesting. I guess the term balance really stands out to me in this as well. I see an exclamation mark. It's Dr. Possibility.
Hello, yes, that is me. I really enjoyed that, Felix. That was really cool. I'm curious in how have you been able to like share it with friends and family, and like how does it work when you know someone who's also aware of this like concept, or is like trying to move towards a sense of mattering? Like, do you think it heightens your ability to like practice this? And yeah, have you tried it out? Have you shared it with anyone else other than us in this room?
Yeah, so I made some stickers because there's like a wheel and it has arrows and things like this. Yeah, but it's not something that I've really gone into. I haven't discussed it like really with great depth. I think it's probably one of those things that people tend to arrive at the same time because of like some sharedness between them, and it's like you can get to that idea without having the words laying it out directly, as well. So it's like you could talk to someone who's never heard of like this idea, but like really lives with like a sense of balance between different portions of their life and within interactions, and that would like come off of them. I think in terms of, was it practicing it, did you say? It's not because it's not like a practical guide. Well, it sort of is a practical guide. In terms of practicing it, I would say that it's one of those things that you think about it a bit and then like life moves and then it's sunk in somewhat and then you consider it again and it permeates into new regions of your mind, and then it's like either you take it up or more or less. But I would say, I mean, because I have come and like talked about this, so I'd probably be some like I've, you know, had some level of integration with it. I think it's what it has changed is the sense that you can you shouldn't give too much to anything, and you should have a fairness in your dealings with different areas of your life, and equally it's if one thing feels like it holds a lot of significance, like it can be a relationship you're in, or it can be the job that you're working, or you know, anything. If it feels like it's consuming a lot of you, then it doesn't have to be that way. Or not that it doesn't have to be that way, but it could be just as good for you for it to be more adjusted for other areas to also have like you flowing with it, if that works. Yeah.
I have another quick question, and then we can see whether we want to discuss it more informally in breakout groups after that, unless more questions come our way. But you know, I kind of want to situate it in the present moment, and I want to understand, what does mattering look like to you right now, as we're all just here? Like, how do you see it playing out in this moment with all of us, all these tiles of faces in front of you?
I think I feel like more taken out of myself by it, because I have the sense of like, oh, there's like, you know, I am I, and then they're all like, everyone is their own I, and between like one and the other and all of them, there's all these different sort of flows of value that you can't, like, it's not a quantifiable thing. It's just a sense of importance that one can feel and can also have like felt from oneself to another. So in that way, and yeah, and the more you sort of the like the bigger not the bigger the picture, but the wider your scope can go, the more enriched it becomes, I would say, as well. Yeah, So that's from, yeah, just with us all here, that's what I feel.
Wow. That's fascinating. I guess also to some extent, I am I, and then you are your own I, right? And then there are a lot of people being their own eyes. But also there are moments when like my eyes will go to my own self on the screen and I'll go like, who is that person? And then suddenly she becomes a you. And I'm thinking, how did that matter? But anyway, yeah, I'm guessing we're good to go into breakout groups and discuss this more informally.
Okay, welcome back everyone. We're going to spend like 5 minutes sharing some of the interesting bits that we got from the breakout rooms we were in.
I'm going to start. I think we went, so I was with Lauren and Esther, and we went on I feel like we went on a journey with this, and it took us to, I don't know, discussing magic thoughts and recurring numbers and tarot. But anyway, Felix is like, what? But I guess what was interesting is that we kind of, what I found very interesting is we kind of took the information you gave us and we kind of explored it in our own little ways, like our own unique ways. And I found a lot of beauty in that. So Esther had mentioned how, I mean, she started going, talking about like potential ingredients in this idea of mattering, where it was like, does fulfillment enter the picture, and where does time fit into this? So, and whether the two are linked. So, being aware of time in our relationship with things or the world, does that make things more fulfilling, or does it create an abstraction where you're focusing on like time being a very kind of, it can be what you decide it is. Like, does it let you be more present, or would it be like, oh, gotta go now, I have other stuff to do. And then Lauren took this concept of mattering and then like placed it into her own personal life. And it was like about productivity, right? So yeah, we assign meaning or a sense of mattering to productivity. And does that then allow us to find a place in the society we are in? Does it allow us to hold on to something or some kind of identity? And why does productivity matter? Why do we make it matter? And then how does that define our relationship at work? And then I kind of did a deep dive into the etymology, because while you were talking, I was like, mattering, matter, okay. And then there's like a scientific sense to the word matter. And like, I see it as like something being very tangible. And, then it made me think, okay, matter, tangible, is it something that we want to hold on to? And what implications does that have? Why do we need something to hold on to? So that's the stuff that came about in a very whistle stop tour.
Mary Big Thief is what Alice just put in the chat. We may never know what that means unless Alice shares with us, but I'll share first, and then maybe a song. Okay, it's a song. Cool. Yeah, something that struck out for me by going into all the different groups was how quickly the whole concept unfolded, and how almost existential and like out of body all of the concepts started getting. And it kind of showed that we couldn't quite get a grasp on what matters, and like, where does matter start with me as an individual, and when does it spill into society and physics and the natural world. And it's really interesting because I could see from the little bits I picked up from the different groups, I could see like the blurring of what we think matters, and then also what our society as a whole thinks matters. And that interweaving is just so fascinating for me. Yeah, so thanks for that, Felix. It just opened up our minds. I see Adam and then Alice. I'll pass it on to Adam first.
Sure, just to follow your theme, James, of like blurring the boundaries. Something that we covered at the start was, I said like, does allowing other people to help you? So for example, maybe you're lost or something and asking for someone's help, or in a workplace situation, does asking for someone's help and giving them the opportunity to help you mean that you helped them matter? Yeah, and then we went on to talk more about like the importance of like exchange. There was like a throwback to a more evolutionary perspective of like before we lived in this time that we live in, with like bank accounts, balance sheets, where you own something, but there was a communal belongingness. And actually the reason why it feels good is because we're wired for that. We're wired to give. And then we kind of started exploring perception and how we spot patterns that we're conditioned for in our culture. There's like random things that come and meet us, and we attach old patterns that we've learned with new randomness. But if it's not empowering for you, then it's up to you to challenge that. Like, to get closer to a connection of reality, knowing that being fully connected with reality and its truth may or may not be possible, but having a connection to reality that is empowering and gives you utility, like, that's something to strive for.
I really like, Aliche, so I thought I would just jump in because in that discussion that was a point that I really enjoyed, because it was like the sense of when it's subjective, like your power to choose is like your power of how you want things to be for you in a sense. And then just like leading on from there as well, we started saying how like just on the point of like resources, of like shared things, how things that are shared are like really good. It's the like in the conversation that we were having, it was like the joy that like we felt that we could choose to feel from that was like, that was the limit to that joy, if that makes sense. Like how much we wanted to accept it or embrace it, or this sort of thing, was like how much that intangible, non-quantifiable, interpersonal, like valuable thing, how much value that it could have, which I just thought was really nice.
I just wanted to, I mean, I'm lost again because so many things happen really fast, but I was having the conversations with Josh and with Isla. And it's beautiful to hear you describing it, because it feels like it's like, I mean, we did talk about things that are touched by what you talked about now, but it's like a new mixture of new things to talk about. It just wanted to say it's difficult. Everybody will have so many things to say. It's a bit confusing and amazing. But yeah, I think the beautiful thing that I wanted to add about our conversation was, or maybe continue delving into, was the what matters to us as a whole, or as a mass, as a group, as a bigger thing that moves, and different sizes of it, and how changing something about that can happen. I mean, the how. Oh, I'm sorry, but how change can be challenging in all numbers, so small, or like if you're one individual, or if you're 1,000, 1,000,000, 7 million, and how does change happen, and what matters to us, and how how that basically has an impact on everything else that's going on. And and that when you change as a whole, you, according to how you change or what you're doing, but if you change, you usually feel a bit more, or at least in a group, you probably feel a bit more supported or helped, and that this support can be, I mean, it's confused. It's just, it's extremely long. I don't want to talk anymore. I will stop. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Now I'm going to try to put together my own words as well. I agree, like, we're a collective, and like we're a collective of individuals who form a collective, and it's like I feel like you can affect what matters to you. Once you kind of figure out what matters to you, and you kind of slow down outside, because there's so many different collectives, and there's like that mainstream collective that I think feeds us since we're children, subliminally through so many different mediums. These things that are supposed to matter to us, like a lot of materiality, you know, objects and excessive objects, or, you know, love, but love framed in a certain kind of way, or family units and how that's supposed to be, sexuality, like so many things. And like when you kind of realize that there's so many of these influences, and you kind of, and I was going to say that something that we discussed as well was the fact that because of that, sometimes there's a disconnect inside of you towards that, or even you say like, oh, this thing matters to me, and you want to go for that, but then for some reason it doesn't matter as much as you kind of wanted it to, and you kind of just feel disjointed from it, and you feel guilty or something from something you want, and something and I feel like we spoke a lot about intuition and slowing down, and like lying down and observing things and being slow, and expressing all these things in different mediums. And I feel like once one individual does that for themselves, they can affect it to other people through all the different forms of communication that there are. And I also was wondering how, because I said, well, I have literally the ability to lie down and do nothing, but a lot of people don't have the ability to do that. And like, how do I as an individual, like through mattering, God, I just realized we're talking about mattering. How do you like allow people to pursue what matters to them as well within the confines of the society?
I think that's really interesting. Like this idea of, you know, like I think what you and Adam also touched on, which was how to make, or like people doing, now I'm struggling. people doing stuff for you, allowing them to feel like they matter, and kind of facilitating a sense of purpose or meaning for someone else. And maybe that matters to you. So it kind of like turns into a beautiful cycle. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like we kind of, and it's amazing how we come back to the theme of connectedness. Even in the previous one, I think we ended up coming down to this idea that it's just how we all connect to each other in ways said and unsaid, and knowing, I mean, not even knowing that we do, and how much we influence each other's lives. And it can be at work, it can be with strangers, it can be with someone in the tube. So yeah, Adam.
Yeah, just to respond to like the interconnectedness, like I can't remember what book I read this in, but it was saying that like when someone does like a good deed to someone else, like they smile, and they smile to give. And then an onlooker also seeing that smiles. So there's smiles all around. So it like it passes on, and it's like it's contagious.
I 100% resonate. I had this moment today. I was in the park and it was snowing, and I was looking at people around me and just thinking, who else is, you know, weird enough to like be sitting in the snow as it falls. And I saw this man with like his daughter perched on his shoulders, and they were just like looking up at each other, and she was looking down, and they were just smiling at each other. And I was the only person, you know, sitting right up opposite, and I was smiling like a fool. Like it just got frozen on my face, and I was thinking, that person did something for me today, and he doesn't even know. So yeah. James, if you want to just briefly go over the next event, so we get a glimpse into that.
All right. Yeah, thank you everyone for your warmth today. It's been really rewarding. It always takes a while to sink into it, but yeah, I got little glimpses of it, which were great. So yeah, this is going to be weekly from now on, and it's the same link you used to get here. So if you just use that link for next week. And next week, we're going to have Dina, and she's going to be talking about something a little bit more closer to earth, which is permaculture. It's kind of like a design principle and a way of growing food, and it's also kind of a philosophy. And she's going to be sharing her journey into permaculture and how it came into her life, and what she's learned from it, and what she wants to learn, and like to collaborate with other people in doing that. So yeah, that's going to be next week from 6 p.m. We're going to be doing the same thing. Really appreciate all of your time here, and hopefully I'll see you all next week. If you have any links or anything you want to share, feel free to message me, and we'll share them.
Such lovely thoughts to end all of this with. So we're going to wrap it up now on this note. And I'd love for all of us to end it again with a moment of quiet, but this time without the mute button, so that we can kind of hear the sounds in each other's homes as well, if you don't mind, of course, if it's not invasive, because it just helps us be more present with one another. So again, 2 minutes of connecting with these sounds, with faces, if you have your eyes open, with yourself and how you've been feeling at the start and where you are now. Yes. Thank you. And yeah, I hope we can stay in this even after the call, in this moment, if it's a good place that you're in. And yeah.